Okay, ladies and gents, we are live. Welcome to the live stream. How are you doing this weekend? Let us know in the chat. We're just going to hang around in the fondue lounge as always while we wait for a few people to arrive. Yeah, let us know how you've been this weekend and if you've had a good week. If you're new to the stream, you're very welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Got a few things on the agenda this evening. We're going to kick off with these rumours that are going around that there's a faction of the Tory party that want to replace Rishi Sunak with Penny Mordaunt before the next election. We'll have a dive into that. There's also been a further development in the Frank Hester case, the racist Tory donor who made those abhorrent remarks about Diane Abbott recently. Well, they were back in 2019, but they were recently revealed, I should say. There's been more money donated by Hester to the Tories than was previously revealed. We're going to have a look at that as well. We'll take a look through some social media as well tonight. We're going to have a look at a few things on Twitter. And yeah, lots more as well. We're going to go through a few news articles, got some clips lined up. If you've got anything that you'd like me to talk about, please send us a link in the chat as well. If there's any breaking news stories come out that you think deserve a bit of debate on the channel, why not? I do like to stream as I'm hearing about things for the first time as well. You can get a fresh reaction to that. Just a quick reminder as well, hit the subscribe button if you've not done so already. That means that you'll be able to join the chat 60 seconds later. Feel free to join in the discussion there. And hit the notification and thumbs up button. Really does help to... Sorry, I'm just in the middle of something as well. It really does help us on the algorithm with the channel. Okay, I'm just about finished getting set up now. Just a quick reminder, we've also got the membership program open. If you're a fan of live streams, we've got tailored packages, including a live stream package, starting from just 99p. You can get extra live streams, early viewings on our videos, take a look around, and yeah, that'd really help to boost the channel as well. And there's some great perks that we hope you'll enjoy as well. So please do join the channel, and then you can start to enjoy perks such as our static emojis. Just I'll post a couple in the chat now, actually, just while we're waiting for people to arrive. The good thing is, more members we get, the more emojis we can use. So there's a couple there. That's Lindsay Hoyle and Keith with the googly eyes. Just a couple of examples. And as I said, there'll be exclusive live streams as well for members, so please do consider supporting the channel in that way. We'll be getting cracking in just a few moments or so, just a couple of minutes, just while waiting for people to arrive. Oh, sorry, there's nothing on. There you go. It's not been the best of weeks for Keith either. We'll be diving into that. It does look as though the election might be a little bit later than people have been previously predicting. A lot of commentators and other YouTubers as well were predicting a May election, or they were hoping for a May election. I think it was just more wishful thinking than a sort of educated guess in a lot of cases. That now looks like it's going to be put back to later in the year. Obviously, the Tories are facing this backlash over Frank Hester as well as lots of other things at the moment. The polls aren't looking great. I do always take polls with a pinch of salt, I must admit. As regular viewers will understand, they're not always particularly accurate. Exit polls, yeah, they're pretty accurate, obviously, once it's over bar the shouting and the declarations. People have a tendency not to be quite so honest in polls. They change their minds a lot as well. A lot of voters don't even decide who they're voting for until they walk into the booth. Yeah, so the polls aren't looking great for the Tories, as well as a few other factors. You know, you've got this split now. People trying to stay behind Sunak, other people trying to support Penny Mordaunt, it appears, for a possible takeover. So there's all that going on. It wouldn't be very prudent of the Tories to choose to pick an election in May at this point anyway. Okay. Yeah, we'll get started. Just let us know in the chat how you're doing. And as I said before, if you've not subscribed already, that'll give you access to the chat. You can post your message just 60 seconds after you subscribe. And I do hope you'll check out some of the previous content as well. Well, let's get started. We're going to go to an article first before we get onto some clips. That's Twitter. We'll be going back there shortly. There's a few things on Twitter I want to point out as well. But first of all, senior Tories have rallied around the Prime Minister, it says, amid claims that some party MPs are plotting to replace him with Penny Mordaunt. So are the knives out for Sunak? They could be. The metaphorical knives, of course. Let's not go getting labelled as extremists for saying things like that. Accounts of a plot to oust Rishi Sunak surfaced on Saturday in two newspapers. Senior Tories attempted to rally behind an increasingly beleaguered Rishi Sunak on Saturday night amid claims that some Conservative MPs are plotting to replace him with Penny Mordaunt before the next general election. Yeah, and I don't think this is a rumour or anything. I believe that this is probably something that is happening within the Tory party, definitely. It's very factional at the moment. It's split into at least two sides. You have people even further to the right of Rishi Sunak. You've got the ERG, for example. You've got other factions within the Tory party. So some people backing Penny Mordaunt with a do you remember a awful stand up and fight speech at the conference, if you saw any clips of that? Yeah, just very cringeworthy stuff. I don't have that particular clip to hand. But that obviously impressed a lot of Tories now if they're looking to replace Rishi Sunak with Penny Mordaunt, and she is, of course, as awful as any other Tory. I guess it wouldn't even be an internal improvement as far as that goes. What have we had now? 3 different prime ministers in the last 4 years, and it could be a fourth. But as this article says, MPs have been sent out to do the rounds and try and quash these rumours. Former cabinet ministers Jacob Rees-Mogg and David Davis went public to denounce the idea as mad and bonkers, as did senior backbenchers including former vice chair of the 1922 committee, Sir Charles Walker. And we did mention that on our members only live stream at the start of the week, towards the start of the week. If you've not checked that out, please do consider joining the channel. Check out some of our exclusive content. So later in the show as well, we're going to be looking at a few clips that were on the members only live stream as well. But we did go into this 1922 committee who have summoned Sunak to speak. This kind of thing normally happens before prime ministers are forced to resign. Basically, it gets pointed out to them that they've lost the support of the party, and therefore, they won't respect any of his decisions, and they won't be voting for him in Parliament. So that appears to have happened. The same thing happened with Liz Truss when she was outlasted by the lettuce, of course, after just about 5 weeks in government, if that, as Prime Minister, I mean. So it says, with many backbench Tories, including some healthy majorities, increasingly fearful of losing their seats in an election wipeout, accounts of a plot to oust Sunak surfaced on Saturday in the Daily Mail and Daily Telegraph. Well, yeah, they are going to lose a lot of seats, of course. We're always debating where those seats will go. Almost 100 Tories now, isn't it, that have decided they're not even going to, they're going to jump before they get pushed, basically. They're not going to be standing in the seats at the next election, including Theresa May, one of the former Tory Prime Ministers, won't be standing in, is it Maidstone, I think? Yeah, that's her seat. Well, Count Bimface might be in with a chance, or Lord Buckethead, whichever one of them might be standing in that seat. They had a good few sort of so-called comedy candidates as well. I think Elmo, someone as the Sesame Street character, stood as Elmo in that seat as well. They might be in with a chance. That might be one of our seats to watch. Obviously, I'm going to be covering the election as it happens. I will probably be doing a live stream as well, not from the very beginning of it, just as some of the results start to come in. So yeah, do stick around on the channel for that when that comes later in the year. Anyway, before I risk getting distracted, just point out a few more things from this article. So, the Mail said that MPs on the right of the party had held talks with moderates, the so-called moderates, the centrists, they're all neoliberals. Anyone who calls himself a moderate is on the right wing. They just normally are too ashamed to say it, so that's why you have moderates and centrists and whatnot. So yeah, it held talks about uniting behind Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons, and anointing her as leader in coronation in the coming weeks. I've mentioned quite a few times in the past on the channel how ridiculous it is that they can just change Prime Minister. They will, of course, always try to argue it's still the elected party, so it doesn't matter. But the fact that you can just change Prime Ministers without being in an election is just part of the awful system that we've got in this country. Of course, the so-called mother of all parliaments that's so far behind the times, it doesn't bear thinking about. So Mordaunt's not made a public comment about the claims. This article confirms. That might change in the coming days, though. Let's see. It says her supporters said she was not party to or aware of any such plot, and that she believed the stories were an attempt by her detractors on the right to damage any potential challenge she may have in the future after a Tory election defeat. So, well, someone's talking bull. Is it just a rumour? I'm pretty certain it wouldn't surprise me in the least if in a few days this was confirmed to be true. It's often the case, Tories will be denying that something's about to happen, and then lo and behold, despite how many times they send people out on the news rounds to try and deny things, they go and happen anyway. And just a quick point before we move on about changing Prime Minister, that's obviously very important in a general election. A lot of people go and vote, and their choice for Prime Minister certainly comes into it. Who's going to be the Prime Minister definitely is in the public consciousness where they choose to vote. A lot of people do regularly vote for the same party, that's true, but we've seen so much in the last few elections, at least. People, for example, a lot of people voted for the Tory party, unfortunately, for the first time at the last election, and obviously Johnson was this big sort of populist. Obviously it's all a character, it's a kind of act, the whole Boris thing. I don't even personally like calling him that. That's just sort of part of the character. Behind closed doors, behind the scenes, he's very different. And apparently I've heard that even his friends on the phone call him Alex or Al, which is his actual first name. And when the cameras are on, he messes her up, and obviously out comes the clown, the character. But a lot of people fell for that. A lot of people, unfortunately, were taken in by that, and that comes into why they voted for the Tories as well. So switching prime ministers, unelected prime ministers, is just undemocratic as it gets, really. It's not the public, obviously, who decide. It's just a few members of the Tory party, and that's it. Just moving on Several Tory MPs maintain, however, that Mordaunt has been on manoeuvres for months, making clear she would be happy to visit MPs' constituencies and get to know their local party officials. This is it's typical Tories, when the vultures are circling around them, as they certainly are with Sunak. Like we said, just as we were warming up at the top of the show, he doesn't want to call an election in May. That's very unlikely to happen. He's trying to save his neck now. But as soon as the Tories smell blood, there'll be people who want to challenge for the leadership position. And they always act as though they're so faithful, obviously, to whoever is the current sitting Prime Minister until the vultures start to circle, and then they're absolutely ruthless. I, for one, wouldn't be surprised that this has been an ongoing tactic for Penny Mordaunt. Oh, that might actually be a picture taken from the speech I was on about the stand up and fight, like she was trying to motivate a boxer or something before he's going out for a match. Goodness, we've had some bad prime ministers over the years, but it's like a series of Russian dolls or something. They just keep getting worse and worse. I wouldn't like to find out what it'd be like to have Penny Mordaunt as Prime Minister. Okay. So Rees-Mogg said any attempt to hold yet another contest would backfire. Whom the gods could destroy, they first make mad, he said. The idea that changing the Prime Minister now would make Conservatives more popular with an election view is madness. It would be destructive for the Tories, he said. Hope you don't mind the improvised impression of Jacob Rees-Mogg there. Walker insisted a majority of Tories would ensure another contest or coronation did not take place. It's beyond belief that sensible people in the this is a quote, by the way. Sorry, I'm not doing a voice for Walker. Quotes: "It is beyond belief that sensible people in the Conservative Parliamentary Party would allow a leadership contest to happen," he said. Quote, "It will not be allowed. It is about a faction of the Conservative Party that thrives on drama and chaos," he says. Several senior figures argued that far from being a unifying figure, Penny Mordaunt would actually be hugely divisive herself. They say her views on Israel, gender and other issues would mean most of the right would never support her. I'm not sure what her particular views on Israel are. The Tories made an amendment which they withdrew during that whole debacle the other week with Hoyle. But I'm not sure off the top of my head. I can't remember who it was that put that amendment through, or maybe if Mordaunt was involved with that. Not exactly sure what her stance on a ceasefire in Gaza is, for example. But if they say most of the right would never support her, I'm guessing that means that she might actually have a slightly more sympathetic view towards Gaza than Sunak currently does. Obviously, I mean, just look at the way he's trying to treat people who show up at the protests as well in these new groups, prescribed groups that have been labelled extremists. Although, to be fair, although there were some Islamic groups, there were also far-right groups in the mix as well, neo-Nazi types, which obviously is a legitimate thing that should be monitored. But yeah, just a rubbish excuse to try and label protesters as extremists. And do check out our previous content on that as well. We brought that up on live streams and other videos as well. Just pick out a few more bits of this article. I'm not going to read through it in entirety. So Ed Davey has thrown his 2 cents into this as well. Sir Ed Davey, that is. The Liberal Democrat leader said before his party's spring conference this weekend that it was shaping up to be a once-in-a-generation election where the Conservatives would be unable to patch things up. They got decimated, obviously, at the last election. Their bollocks to Brexit strategy didn't go very well. A lot of people saw that as undemocratic, although we won't get carried away with saying about how legally binding the referendum was or wasn't. The way that the Tories spun it, the way that a lot of pro-leave people spun that was that it was, obviously they thought it was obviously undemocratic to go against a referendum result, albeit a marginal one, of course. 48 to 52 is not clearly the will of the public. But we won't get too carried away with that. Obviously, there was years of commentary for Brexit. I'm pretty sure most people know what they think about it by now. Although, just quickly before I do carry on through the article, I've heard, speaking of rumours and this kind of thing, Johnson apparently is going to be making an attempt at some sort of a comeback. I'm not sure if he's going to try to become Prime Minister again, or he might be trying to get in the cabinet, or perhaps after the election it will be the shadow cabinet if Labour win, or if another party wins. Who knows? You don't know until people go and vote. But he might, apparently, yeah, he might be making some sort of comeback, which would probably be as cringe as it would, interesting. But then the reason I brought that up is part of his apparent comeback is going to be to talk about how Britain has prospered after Brexit. Yes, you heard that right. That's obviously quite far from the truth. But yeah, I'm sure Johnson's told 50 lies in the morning, even before he's put his socks on. So there you go. Just going to say hello to a couple of you who've joined us in the chat. Bird Nest Rat Fest, how you doing? And Purple Nurple, thanks a lot for leaving your messages in the chat. Pretty Patel, next lightning rod. Yeah, that's been rumoured before as to whether Pretty Patel might perhaps want to be the leader. I'm sure that every single Tory who's in Parliament wouldn't mind having a stab at being Prime Minister. A lot of them are careerists, they're not there to satisfy their constituents, and if they are, then they've absolutely joined the wrong party for that. There could be more candidates to come, who knows. Purple Nurple, thanks a lot for your message as well. Thanks for joining us. Okay, let's just get through this article. Got quite a few things to talk about tonight. I'll do my best to keep my eye on the chat as well as the broadcasting software and whatnot. If you do have a pertinent point or question as well, though, please feel free to use super chats. Super chats should be enabled at the moment if you want to have your message read out, or you've got a pertinent question. I promise I'll read out all of the super chats that we get during the stream as well. If you're watching this back as well on a replay, you can help to contribute to the channel with a super thanks as well. Or you can also, if you're live, use a super sticker. Forgot to mention that. Some people prefer that method. Okay. So just this last bit about Ed Davies' comments says it reminds him of the mid-1990s. Often the Conservative Party, somehow with its money, with first past the post system and all the advantages it has, often pulls it out of the bag. Yeah, I think Labour. I think Lib Dem, sorry. They're all so similar, I get them mixed up all the time. They're going to be pushing for proportional representation, PR, I'm pretty sure, in their manifesto. And obviously, as Davey points out, the Tories have got into government without having the majority of the votes under first past the post. So he's predicting a Tory wipeout. He says this will be his 8th election in his constituency. He's knocking on people's doors, people who've never voted for me. Obviously, he might be embellishing things a bit here. Says a real chunk are now saying that they're going to vote for him. They just can't bring themselves to vote Conservative. We're seeing some quite extraordinary results. Now, yeah, around the time, for example, that Labour, that Starmer took over Labour, around 2020-ish, understandably, we had the pandemic and stuff going on at the time as well. But I said, as I still do now, that it is no definite 100% guarantee that Labour are going to walk the next election with a super majority. I think there could even be a hung parliament. I'm not even 100% sure that they'll take enough seats from the Tories, is my point. And I thought a lot of people who voted for Tory at the last election might have come across from Lib Dems. Obviously, that follows in the statistics with Lib Dem getting absolutely wiped out. There were a lot of, obviously, previously Labour voters who'd voted Tory for the first time as well, as I said. But I think where's the flow of Tory seats is going to go. They're going to lose a lot. They're going to lose a lot. It's just where they're going to go. Will people want to give the Lib Dems a chance? I often point out that they were in government more recently than Labour were, and not every single Tory loss is going to be Labour's gain. We've seen some other interesting results recently, not least of all Rochdale, which we've mentioned quite a few times. That does show that an outside smaller party can have a lot of success. Obviously, Galloway is the big driver of that as well. His personality. Obviously, he went into that election mostly on a ticket of supporting Gaza. He's also, he's pointed out local issues as well, as we've pointed out as well. But that's just one example. The Greens, I've always said, are going to take a couple of seats. I'm pretty sure the Greens are going to take a couple more seats at the next election. They've only got the one at the moment. It's Brighton. But they are putting up candidates in every seat, they've said now. And that's a first for them. So, as well as that and some other, obviously, with a pinch of salt, interesting polling in areas such as Bristol that show that the Greens might be pinching that one from Labour. It's definitely, I'll say it's going to be interesting to see either way if Labour or the Tories do win. That's obviously not great in either case. Regular viewers of the channel will know that I'm no fan of Starmer whatsoever, or the way that he's taken the Labour Party. But that's something we'll be coming on to talk a little bit more about just shortly. That's more or less it for the article. He just finishes by saying, we, that is the Lib Dems, only ever won one seat in Surrey in his lifetime. I think we'll win more than one seat this time. Surrey Health, that's Michael Gove's seat, is looking interesting. I'm not saying that we're going to win it. There'll be several other seats in Surrey we'd win first, but it's a sign of the times that it's even on our radar. Gove is one of the big names that could be going at the next election. I'm going to come up with 5 sort of seats to watch. Well, might do 10, I'm not sure. There'll still be a while between now and the next election. But when I do the coverage, there are going to be some seats that I'm going to have my eye on, as well as viewers. We do like to get a bit interactive with stuff on the streams as well. So I'll be asking people to pick perhaps 5 cabinet members who they think might lose the seat. If Sunak lost his seat, or whoever's going to be Prime Minister come the next election, bearing in mind the discussion or the topic that that's in hand, that would be interesting as well. Michael Gove, Ed Davey thinks that he could be one that might be one to keep our eyes on as well. I guess I'd love it if, there's a whole bunch of Tories who I'd like to see losing the seats. I'd like to see Rees-Mogg lose his seat. That'd be great. Sunak would obviously be great as well. Any of the former prime ministers. We're not even going to see Theresa May standing, of course. Johnson, of course, as well. That'd be good. He only got about a 7,000 majority, I think, in his seat. That's dwarfed by even the few existing decent socialists we've got in Labour, including Diane Abbott. I think she's got a massive majority in Hackney. So let us know what you think about that. Do you think Mordaunt is going to make a move? Do you think she's going to stand and fight? Is that what she's going to do? We'll have to wait and see, I guess. A week's a long time in politics, as we always say on the live stream. This time next week, we could be having an entirely different discussion. Could even perhaps have the motions might have started by then. The wheels might have started turning, and the vultures might have begun to circle. Who knows? Let us know your thoughts in the chat if you're listening live, or if you're watching on a replay. Please do add your comments. We always try and keep up with as many comments as I can. I've had quite a few over the last couple of weeks. That's been amazing. The response to some of our videos recently. So the next quick article, just before I want to go into a few clips, we're going to be talking about these donations and the extra £5 million, if you saw our most recent video, from this awful racist Frank Hester, who's given an extra £5 million, it's been revealed. So they'd only declared 10 million originally, and these declarations come out after a while, after a certain amount of time. And just by coincidence, as that story broke during the week, it came up to the point where it's been revealed another 5 million has come from Frank Hester, bringing the total up to 15, and 5 million of that went directly to Sunak himself. Appalling. And they've been asked, obviously the Tories have been asked a lot about this in interviews recently, and they've said that they'd be happy to continue to take money from him, which is just unbelievable. We covered Stephen Flynn's amazing response to all that as well on another video. If you've not seen that, please do check that out. It's been great to see people's comments on that as well. But the Tories are saying that they don't have a problem with racism or racists, which is obviously so far from the truth. Those of you who followed our PMQs live streams, I just started to do a regular stream on Wednesdays for that, will know that again, Sunak, basically because of the failings of, Starmer, he's always given him a massive stick to beat Labour with. Some of the things are legitimate. For example, what was the most recent one? It was about U-turns, basically, on policies. I can't remember which specific policies he brought up, but he's always dropping pledges, that kind of thing. And then they're going along with the other manufactured BS that Starmer happens to go along with as well, which is unfortunate, and never defends himself when Sunak makes the awful accusations about Labour used to have an anti-Semitism problem. And obviously it turns out that the rate of anti-Semitism within the Tory party at the time was a lot higher, and there's Islamophobia and all sorts. There are a lot of racists in the Tory party, in the parliamentary party, as well as in the party itself. Did you know the average? I'm not sure if this is an up-to-date stat, but certainly a couple of years ago, I think that was the last time I checked this out. I will have to maybe check again. But I think last time I looked, the average age of a Tory member was something like 73. Anyway, that's just an aside. Put that in your stats box. Okay. So yeah, the party's rife with racists and these comments, and the fact that he's just been allowed to make a mealy-mouthed apology that wasn't even an apology for being racist, and then they're trying to move on, is obviously awful. As I said on the video, that just adds insult to injury. So, senior cabinet minister has denied the Tory party have a problem with race. Let's have a look at the video first from Mark Harper. Hopefully this will play nice and smooth. Had a buffering problem recently. Fingers crossed. Apologies if it does buffer.
Do the Conservatives have a problem with race?
Absolutely not. As the Prime Minister himself said this week, we're a party proudly led by the first British Asian Prime Minister with the most ethnically diverse cabinet there's ever been.
I'll just pause that there. Just because we do have the first British Asian Prime Minister, even though isn't he technically American, isn't he a non-dom? That's beside the point. That's not to say that he can't be racist himself, or certainly, as with the Frank Hester case, he's supported someone who's used direct racism, and he's certainly not. He's accepted that apology way too quickly, and is trying to sweep it under the carpet. So that doesn't necessarily mean that, just because they're using these examples of ethnic diversity within the Tory party doesn't give them a clean slate where racism's concerned. Far from it.
And we're a party which welcomes people from across the United Kingdom, whatever their background, whatever their race, if they share our values and our approach to politics.
Yeah, just one sec. A quick shout out on the chat. Thanks a lot, Mithril, for gifting the memberships. Yeah, that's a great way to support the channel as well. And hope you enjoy your perks. So now you'll be able to use... We've got a few static emojis. We will be adding more as our membership grows. You get to use more of the static emojis as well. Thanks a lot for that, Mithril. And hope you all enjoy the perks.
We want everyone to be a member of the Conservative Party and feel very comfortable within it.
But some of them are not.
Yeah, can I just say it's very frustrating for me when ministers say that we have the most diverse cabinet in history, and that is somehow a get out of jail free card. You know, when I...
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, I've not seen this clip before the stream, and that's similar to the point I was making. Is absolutely correct. Not sure, was that someone who used to be on Dragon's Den on the panel? The guy who owns the stationery place, what's he called? Theoprophesis? Is that he? I'm not sure why he's on the panel for this discussion, but maybe he was there for a different topic, something to do with business on Cussenberg. I'll check out some clips of Cussenberg's show. Quite a few people who I follow on social media will sort of pick out tidbits, but I don't watch it all the way through. Cussenberg's not really my kind of journalist, to be honest, but yeah, he's spot on. Let's just play the clip through. Sorry about the buffering as well, by the way.
I was first involved in politics. It was folks like Richard Fuller, Nicholas Bowles, Elizabeth Berridge, white parliamentarians who saw a young guy from a working class background and thought I had potential. And when I was in Downing Street when George Floyd was murdered, it was not the black or brown members of parliament who reached out and said, how can we bring communities together? It was Boris Johnson, despite some of the things that he said in the past, that was most interested in that. And now...
well, yeah, that comes as a shock to me. Obviously, before he was Prime Minister, before he got into politics, he was a crass attempt at a journalist and wrote for the right-wing press. I believe what he's referring to previous examples from Johnson. I think he said that black people have watermelon smiles, and there was something else about hijabs looking like pillar boxes or post boxes, I believe. And he's written anti-Semitic things as well. I believe one of the examples of that was, I think he was trying to write some kind of fiction, and but had created this awful racial stereotypical Jewish character into the book. You know, I won't go into it. They're awful tropes. You know the kind of stuff I mean. It's not really worth talking about. I'm not going to bring up those disgusting examples again. Too specifically, I mean. But that's a bit of a surprise.
Of course, some of our most divisive politicians are people like Suella Braverman. And so, to paraphrase Martin Luther King, it is not the colour of your skin that matters when it comes to tackling racism and discrimination, bring communities together. It has to be the content of your character and your willingness to lead. And that is not what we're seeing today.
Perfectly put, I think, there. We'll skim through a few points in this article. So Harper's been doing the rounds, as we saw there as well. He says that they're very welcoming to everybody, whatever the race. As long as you're rich, of course. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, doors open, doors wide open for bags of money in the Tory party. So it's referring to Frank Hester again, obviously. Those comments were appalling. He said that Diane Abbott made him want to hate all black women and that she should be shot. Terrible, terrible. I don't know if I'm not sure if there's been any legal proceedings over this as well. A lot of people have said that that could be seen as incitement, and the Tories have, with this, the culture war's begun already. This war on extremism. Do you remember the war on terror? What is this? Just like this is basically just version 2 of the war on terror. Although they've not called it the war on extremism. That's pretty much what they're trying to pass it off as with this ridiculous legislation. But yeah, a lot of people have said that should be seen as incitement. The Tories have used examples of the MPs that have been killed by extremists in the past, Joe Cox being one of them. It's believed that the person who murdered her outside of a constituency office was a member of a far-right group as well. David Amis was another one. And yeah, again, that was an awful attack. So with those things happening in the not too distant past, it's easy to, well, I agree that should count as incitement. That there's a lot of right-wing knuckle draggers, whatever you want to call them, out there who would take that as the green light to go out and do something awful. It's, if they keep up this kind of rhetoric, it's only a matter of time before some idiot starts to take these kind of things literally. So just another reason why they've got to clamp down on this. Could you just not be racist, please? Unbelievable. Mr. Harper also refused to comment on reports that the Conservatives have accepted a further £5 million from Hester, which would take his total donations to the party to £15 million in under a year. As we said, well, yeah, that has been announced now. There's no point refusing to comment. There are procedures, although there's a lot of hidden money in politics with lobbying and whatnot. There are still procedures which mean that declarations do become public. And that's now happened, so that's confirmed. When asked by Laura Kussenberg if the Tory party's got a problem with race, he said absolutely not. We saw that in the clip earlier. He argued that they should accept his apology, Hester's apology. And just a very quick reminder, he'd only apologised for being rude. And like Stephen Flynn pointed out, it wasn't just rude, it was... I think he said it was downright bloody dangerous. It was racist as well, yeah. With Stephen Flynn really rolls his R's, doesn't he? Rude. It was rude. It was racist, and it was bloody irresponsible. Yeah, and he's absolutely right. So we heard Mr. Kasumu as well in that clip, and he paraphrased Martin Luther King there. It's not the colour of your skin. When it comes to tackling racism, discrimination, bringing communities together, it has to be the content of your character. That's obviously taken from Martin Luther King's famous historic address, the I Have a Dream speech, which started off pointing out that America wrote a bad check with the Emancipation Proclamation to the American government. Anyway, so Baroness Worsey has thrown hat in the ring on this, given her opinion. So we've used clips from Baroness Worsey actually as Tories go. She's actually not too bad. She definitely knows what is what where it comes to the situation in Gaza, for example. So she says the institutionally xenophobic and racist party. Yeah. And she's a Tory herself, of course, and she's just speaking the truth. We're certain that, behind the scenes, any member of the Tory party who's ethnically or racially diverse will have received, some form of racism, comments, slurs behind the scenes, I'm sure. And she says it's still a problem. It's still a problem. Obviously it is. And that's what you get with the far right. That's where the real racism is, not your phony anti-Semitism scam that was weaponised to use against Jeremy Corbyn. This is the real stuff. Racism is always on the right, not on the left, as we always say, just by, by definition, really. Mr. Hester, who's an IT executive, apologised for making rude comments. Yeah, they weren't just rude. Labour MP. So this is one of the worst things about this as well, obviously. I'll just put this on without the volume on. The amount of times that Diane Abbott tried to be seen
Question number 1.
during Parliament, as the caption for the video says there, they're actually doing a running count. She tried to be seen 46 times. And given the fact that the conversation's about her, the topic in hand was about her, the Speaker could at least just give her a few moments of the Parliament's time. Hoyle's useless, though. We know he's useless. He tries to stick to the traditional keep it down to an hour, but his predecessor Burko would let Parliament overrun all the time. So I'm sure that a lot of our viewers are already aware of that. But 46 times, that's ridiculous. Given how serious this issue is as well, and how dreadful those comments were from Frank Hester. So, yeah, we won't watch all 46. This will start to get a little bit repetitive. Just to point out what she's said about this. Where's the quote from Abbott? Okay, there we go. So, she's argued the government's Rwanda deportation scheme showed the intent to play the race card. That's true. As the next election approaches, Miss Abbott also criticised Labour, saying racism in politics is not just a matter for any one political party. The Labour MP for Hackney and Stoke Newington was suspended by Labour in April, obviously. There have been calls to bring her back. Angela Rayner is actually one of them. A lot of people thought that Rayner's sort of turned her back on her working class background and gone on the careerist path under Starmer. Although this show of support for Diane Abbott is obviously welcomed. She should have the whip reinstated. I'm sure that she'll still win her seat as an MP. They've asked her not to stand as an independent already. If you can, believe that. It's like, no thanks. You get screwed, actually. Thank you very much. First of all, they remove the whip and then they ask her, would you be so kind as to not give us an absolute drubbing and win the seat as an independent? We'll have to see what happens if she gets reinstated or not. Former Labour deputy Harriet Harman told BBC that Mr Harper's comments proved there was still a problem. There's still a problem with racism. She says, you have to recognise that even though there's been an advance of black people and women in politics, there is still an even higher, greater backlash, and that's what people are facing. The danger to tackling discrimination is complacency. Yeah, and they use the Rwanda scheme as one example. The definition, this new definition of extremism, is race baiting as well, attempting to label all Muslims as extremists, all protesters, all supporters of Gaza as extremists as well. Surely that's directly racist. And lest we remind everybody about Lee Anderson's comments recently about Sadiq Khan, other comments that Suella Braverman has made, for example. Multiculturalism has failed, is what our ethnically diverse former Home Secretary said, of course. So this is Harriet Harman has added, the reason the Tories were hesitant to criticise Hester and hand back his donations is because they've accepted such a huge amount of money. Yeah, he's the biggest donor, isn't he? And £15 million just increases that amount. But she said Labour absolutely have further to go on tackling racism. Well, they kind of do under Starmer, now that, they got rid of Corbyn by pretending that there was an excess amount of racism in the party. Now that he's actually purging and targeting Jewish members of the party, that's the ongoing racism that's in the Tory party. Just because they they don't back Israel, and that's the truth. That's the real racism that's happening. Who can say there's no problem? We've got to recognise it's been an evil, terrible problem. Obviously, we pointed out before over 500,000 members of the Labour Party that there were under Corbyn. I think in the end there were only 2 people who ended up being disciplined for making anti-Semitic remarks. There were a lot of accusations thrown around, obviously, but you just have to scratch under the surface to realise it was ridiculous and not true. A lot of the cases weren't even, the comments didn't even come from members of the Labour Party or supporters of the Labour Party or from anyone who'd ever even voted for the Labour Party before, but they were attributed to Corbyn, for example. I've heard others such statistics as that 80% of these complaints came from the same person, came from one person, and at the end of the day, only 2 out of a party of well over 500,000 people. You can't really say that that's any sort of endemic within the party, can you? So she just finishes off by saying we must challenge Islamophobia and anti-Semitism if we see that in our party, as we do when we see it in society at large, which is of course true. But the worst thing about making up fake cases of racism is that it detracts from the actual real cases, and that's just one of the biggest problems with it, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Right, we'll check out a couple of clips now. Sorry, it's been mostly article skimmage thus far in the stream. Thanks a lot for sticking it out with us, though, everybody. Just going to have a quick look at some of the comments. Mithril, yeah. It's not anybody's kind of journalist. Laura Kussenberg, yeah, that's right. There's a few of them now in the BBC, aren't there? Fiona Bruce, of course, is famous for cutting people off to try and defend the Tories. And I've not watched Question Time all the way through for a very long time. Similar to Kussenberg's show, I just kind of catch a few clips that people who I follow on social media share. And yeah, we can do better as journalists go, we certainly can. Just reading a few other comments now. Nabil, thanks a lot for your comment. You hope he goes. Sunak, yeah, if that's who you're referring to. I hope he does go as well. There's not a lot of people who I do want to be seen re-elected. Obviously, Diane Abbott, like I said, it'd be great to see her win a seat as an independent. I'm pretty sure that Corbyn will as well, of course, in North Islington, as I've said in the past. Zara Sultana, of course, she's Coventry South, I believe. And there's still a few good eggs left in the Labour Party, but the party on the whole has just been entirely compromised by Thatcherite neoliberals, undoubtedly, which is a tragedy. You know, I've asked the question before on the channel: what would Keir Hardie make of what's become of the party now? So let's just nip over to check out a couple of clips. Like I said, some of these were on a members-only live stream towards the start of the week. You can check out that episode now, and we picked up a few new members on the chat tonight as well, so you can enjoy those perks. Also, thanks a lot for staying nice and cordial and polite in the chat as well. Just wanted to say, you're doing great, guys. You amazing people. Thank you so much. And if you've not done so already, hit the buttons, subscribe, thumbs up, etc. Helps us out on the algorithm a lot. So we'll egress from Starmer's fondue party. And sorry, I did have a clip, lad. The first one I wanted to show you, I can't actually show you that I got a message from YouTube about this, about the copyright on this. So I'll just move on to the second one. This is moving on to Grace Blakely, who made a great appearance on one of the daytime TV shows recently. And we're just going to touch on issues in Gaza itself now, which I believe is the bulk of what Grace is referring to here. If you've not seen this clip before, it really was a great performance.
What I think is the only time that we've had radical change in this country has not actually come from politicians turning around and deciding we're going to do things differently. It's come from working people organising in the streets, in their communities, and saying we demand a different kind of economy.
So just quickly, it's not a very long clip. Just for context, the lady in white, sorry, I've forgotten her name off the top of my head again, and I said I'd make a note of it before I came on the stream. I do apologise. She's Labour. The chap on the left is very, I'm not sure if he speaks in this clip, very posh, kind of tough kind of Tory, really. But the lady in white is defending Labour, whereas Grace Blakely is obviously saying how far away from its socialist roots the party has become. And it is indefensible. She doesn't do a particularly good job at defending Labour's line. The lady in white here.
Labour movement.
Well,
it's not.
Let's
Movement that founded the Labour Party and that supported politicians like Niall Allen on the far left of the party at the time, far left of the party at the time, to create the NHS in the midst of massive opposition within the state from the doctors, from every part of society.
And there was a phrase.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, the clip's about the economy, not Gaza. We are going to move on to touch on that shortly. But this followed Rachel Reeves's disastrous statements in the press recently, and Starmer's interview with was it on Sky? Yeah, with Sophie Ridge, wasn't it? And he was just lost on the issue of the economy. Not only refusing to say where the money's going to come from, but what the investments would be. He was all over the place. It was very wooden, very robotic, a sort of atypical personality-less appearance from Starmer as usual. So we posed the question as well in one of our previous videos as to whether the Tories would be any different to Labour. Should Labour win the next election? Is that going to be a step in the right direction? I would say not. We're either going to be in the same position or worse, as far as I'm concerned. And they've certainly done nothing to encourage people to vote for them on the economy recently as well. They're turning back on the pledges, refusing to acknowledge that the Bank of England exists, that public borrowing is a thing, and just why this is relevant to what Grace Blakely is saying. We're not quite in as bad an economic situation as we were at the end of the Second World War, but we still managed to create the greatest national institution that we have, which is the National Health Service, of course, when the country was on its knees. And using this credit card analogy, like Rachel Reeves is guilty of, as well as spouting the term magic money tree around, and just refusing to actually promise to make some serious investment like the country needs. It's just so weak from Labour. It's just so weak, and it's an appalling tragedy to see that this has happened in just 5 short years, and it has gone as a lot of people predicted when Starmer was up for leader. They thought he may have been a wolf in sheep's clothing. I would have preferred Rebecca Long Bailey personally. I guess would have been my choice out of the candidates. But she didn't get past the first round, unfortunately, first round of voting.
I think at the time, having just seen the play, that in the end he had to stuff their mouths with gold in order for it to happen.
And of course, the host there couldn't help but try and make a case for the Tories and whatnot. Obviously, these public investments pay for themselves. You don't have to be stuffed with gold. That's what public borrowing is all about. It's called borrowing for a reason. It pays for itself. It pays itself back, as well as improving society. A couple more comments as well. Mithril says Keir Hardie would destroy Keir Starmer. Oh, he absolutely would, hands down. And speaking of Keir Hardie, just to quickly point out those of you who've just recently become new members on the stream, you get a different badge after certain amounts of time of being a member. One of them is Keir Hardie. I believe he's actually the top one for the for the lengthiest members, so it sort of goes in a progression. So after the first one you'll get, there is a Jeremy Corbyn one, and then it goes on to Tony Benn one, and then finally Keir Hardie. So yeah, please do continue to support the channel and enjoy those perks as well. He would absolutely destroy Starmer, hands down. Oh, you brought Grace Blakely's new book, and Mithril highly recommends it. It says it's very good. I might have to check that out myself based on this appearance. I'll be honest, I've not really seen too much from her before this clip was brought to my attention, but she's certainly speaking the truth there, and anyone who recognises what the Labour Party actually is at the moment is okay with me. I'm under no illusion, as a lot of other people are, that it's still actually any kind of democratic socialist party. That went with, well, first of all, it went with Clause 4, and it looked like it was making a return under Corbyn, but people had their nefarious ways, didn't they, of course, in the end. So we'll just move on to another clip now. This is just a quick one about Israeli propaganda and lies. We're seeing this on a daily basis now. I'm sure a lot of you are aware. You can't really take any announcements too seriously. They're also coming out with all kinds of trash on social media, which is embarrassingly poor propaganda, even as propaganda goes, you know. So these are just some observations about that, and then we're going to hear from a couple of people in Parliament, Beth Winter and the man Jeremy Corbyn himself, and what they've had to say recently about Palestine. So yeah, these were from our, as I said, these are from our members only live stream that came out towards the top of the week, and you can still check that out as well if you'd like to. But now we're going to bring them to you on our regular Sunday night slot as well.
Let me preface these remarks with I never, ever believe Israeli figures. I've been in the government too long to know that the Israelis are patent liars. In their intelligence community, in their propaganda community, certainly, and in their leadership, they are inveterate liars. Let me say that again. They are liars. So you can't believe anything that comes out of Jerusalem. It's all
it's all propaganda, and not particularly great propaganda either. Mithra asks in the chat, am I a Yorkshireman? I am not. I don't specifically say where I'm based at the moment, but I will say that I am from the northwest of the country. But I do have a lot of friends from Yorkshire, and I do go over there quite frequently as well. In fact, I was there just the other week, as it happens, and yeah, I'm obviously a northerner. That's a bit of a giveaway for those of you who are familiar with regional accents in England. I do have quite a specific regional accent, and it has been pointed out before that it does sound a little bit Yorkshire-esque, but I'll just have to keep you guessing on exactly where we are. It's northwest, as I said. So yeah, we're sort of coming out, you know, from that whole region basically. Okay, so this is Beth Winter. That was just a brief clip there, and this is from someone in American government. That's the pertinent point. Obviously, they talk to Israel all the time. They're having diplomatic discussions. You know, a lot of people say that the tail's wagging the dog, so to speak, and Israel certainly has a very large amount of influence on the United States. They've been closely attached. It's often the case that when people are voting in United Nations councils, for example, on issues about Palestine as well, that America and Israel always vote against stuff and get it blocked. And they've obviously closely allied, so this guy will know what he's talking about if he's been in government. And there's the film, I don't know if you've seen that Alexis Sale clip that's been going round as well. Great comedian, obviously a great socialist. I believe he's a Maoist, Alexis Hale, or at least he was at the height of his fame. But anyway, just that video where he says, you know, and they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie, and it's totally true. Let's see what Beth Winter's got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have heard this morning some shocking reports regarding Palestinian medical staff in Gaza being blindfolded, detained, forced to strip and repeatedly beaten by Israeli troops.
Yeah, this was a story from earlier in the week. I'm sure you'd probably be familiar with it as well. It was awful. Obviously, a lot of the pictures and video are too strong under the terms of service on YouTube to show on the live stream, but the scenes, as you'll hear being described, were awful. That these hospitals get raided by the IDF, and then the staff, well, they're pretty much tortured, beaten, and subjected to awful amounts of humiliation and dehumanisation as well.
After a raid on Nasser Hospital last month, there's footage from Khan Yunis showing men stripped and kneeling, and it also shows patients with their hands bound being wheeled in beds. So does the UK government believe that the Israeli government is responsible for the conduct of its forces, and that this clearly appears to be torture and is in breach of international law, including Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Geneva Convention Article 18? And what is the UK government going to do about this?
Just before we hear the Tory response, of course, you never get answers, you get a response where the Tories are concerned, whether it's in Parliament or in a TV interview. But that's exactly, we're dealing with international law here. And I remember a great speech that Corbyn did at one of the London demos recently that we showed, where he pointed this out. You know, quite a few people have said it, but he's reminding us that we're going to be on the wrong side of history with this legally, not just morally as well. Under the Geneva Convention, we are arbiters. We could be seen as aiding and abetting international war criminals, and therefore incriminating ourselves. And obviously the amount of money changing hands in these kind of deals is ridiculous, but that's not just something that the Conservative Party can ignore. And they should all be up in The Hague. We know that much, of course. Do you remember there were protests in Amsterdam recently as well? People stood at the side of the road, and when the Israeli representatives were coming up, they were pointing them towards the direction of The Hague. They should all be up there, and these are crimes. They're international war crimes, and not just minor crimes either. It's a collective punishment, and this legally can't go unnoticed. It has to. Obviously, the ICJ started the ball rolling, but they obviously have very little power to implement, you know, their decisions or verdicts. So let's hear the Tories' response. Basically, it's just, oh yes, the law. Yes, we think the law is very important. I'm paraphrasing here, obviously. It's the same for any subject. They're all, you know, oh, of course, we are entirely dedicated to upholding the law. And it's more of a batting the question away than an actual answer, which is why I call it a response.
Well, Mr. Speaker, she is right to say that Israel must comply with the Geneva Convention she mentioned.
But she just pointed out that they aren't, and therefore we are culpable as well for aiding and abetting. If we give them money and they use that money to commit a genocide, that's bad. That's very, very bad. Okay? And the same goes for weapons contracts, British aerospace, this kind of thing. I actually saw some staff, they must have just been out for a dinner or somewhere, being followed down the road. They were very finely dressed, like they'd just come from a dinner or something, being followed by a group of about 6 protesters, 6 Palestine supporters of a ceasefire. We're following these people from BAE down the road, which was quite extraordinary the other day. They really do have blood on their hands as a company. So when they'd finished, I went over and had a bit of a chat with them, obviously, because I'm all about stuff like that, really. And they're a company that could be arbiters as well. They should be dragged into this as well. BAE Systems. Yeah. The industrial military complex, eh?
We have seen these reports. I think that a full explanation and investigation is required, and that is what the British government is pressing for. And I would point out to her that when it comes to targeting operations, there are lawyers embedded in the Israeli and the IDF command.
Well, they must be pretty bad at their jobs because they don't even know collective punishment and occupation when they see it, do they? Just going to quickly jump in the comments. Beesmonk, yes, Northwest in the house. Are you from the Northwest as well? Great to see you tonight on the stream. Thanks for coming back. Great to see you again. Let us know where you're from if you'd like to. You don't have to, of course. Personal information, etc. GDPR. But yeah, if you want to let us know where you're from, that'd be cool. Just have a quick look through some of the other comments. The chat's pretty busy tonight. That's great to see. Sure you're all being polite and cordial. Martin Arnold. Being forced to spectate a genocide in real time is, to put it mildly, fucking horrific. Yeah, you're right. That's one of the worst things about this, seeing these images and pictures day after day. There's always something new. I have said before, I've seen things that are so awful, they've not just triggered me emotionally. I've had to leave the room. I felt nauseous. I felt like I'm going to be sick, literally, with some of the things that I've seen and heard about as well. And it's playing out in real time, right in front of our eyes. And we've said before as well, this is why Israel are choosing to target journalists, which they are clearly doing. And more journalists have been killed than previous conflicts combined. You know, World War One and Two, and the Vietnam War, plus probably a couple of others as well. And that's just after 5 months. A few more comments. There's so Beesmonk says there's not a single democratic country on this planet. We have to smash the whole system. You're getting on a little in years, but you'll never stop. This parliament, I think you've seen, yeah, since you were 9 years old, and it just goes on and on. Unfortunately, we do need a new system. We need to get rid of first past the post, of course, for a start. We need something more representative, and let's remind ourselves. I think this is a big year for people's assemblies and this kind, citizens' assemblies as well. We're going to be hearing calls for maybe an alternative house, a real citizens' house, not the sham that we have that doesn't really represent anybody anyway. Yeah, moving on, just a couple more comments. Like I said, it's been great to see the chat getting busy tonight as well. Elbit Systems, you reminded us of those as well, and they're not too far away from where we're broadcasting from this evening, I should say. And yeah, weapons manufacturers, it's awful to see this kind of thing happening quite close to where we are, knowing that people go there every day and they think that they're doing a fair day's work, for a fair day's pay, but the consequences of their actions are death, destruction, murder, and war, and genocide. It's awful. It makes you. It's almost enough. Well, I would argue that it is enough to make you ashamed to be British at the moment. Yeah, definitely. David, Brummie born and bred. Oh, I was in the Midlands not too long ago. I was in Birmingham itself quite recently, actually, as well. Yeah, so thanks a lot for joining us on the chat tonight, David. Great to see you. And Meath Rose in Morecambe. Someone else from the Northwest. We've got quite a few people from the Northwest today. We're representing. But it's great to see viewers of the channel from all over the world. I've had comments from all the way, Canada, and we've had viewers in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, and all over the place. It's been great to see our little community growing internationally as well. There's just a few more words from this. So who is this as well? Sorry, I've forgotten this fella's name off the top of my head. He's just standing in.
Just as there are in Britain, and that should ensure that the acceptance and honouring of international humanitarian law is kept. But I agree with her, a full explanation is required.
Well, they won't get one. Yeah, she's Welsh MP, Beth Winter. Welsh Labour, I think. Yeah, let us know. It's not coming to me. Sorry, I've forgotten off the top of my head what this chap's name is. But let us know what you think about that response. And then we're going to go over to Jeremy Corbyn next.
The Palestinian people have suffered enough. The least we can do as a country is recognise the state of Palestine. No qualifications, recognise the state of Palestine to show that we are serious in speaking up for the abuse of human rights and an end to the siege of Gaza. Sieges and occupation bring about horrors. They affect people's minds, they affect the way people behave, and they affect the country that is doing the occupying as well. And so in this debate today, let's just make the call. We're there supporting the human rights of everybody within the region. And we're there calling for an end to the occupation and the settlements and the recognition of Palestine.
Always great to hear from Corbyn, of course. I believe Spain are the most recent country who've officially come out and recognised Palestine as a state in its own right, which of course it is, and not to do so would be completely unjust. And we'd like to see more of that following. Maybe the USA, obviously the UK as well. It'd be great to see official recognition of the state of Palestine. Okay, how are we doing for time? Ooh, been on for well over an hour already. Time flies. Time flies when you're having fun, although a week is a long time in politics, ironically. We're just going to have a quick look through some social media as well before we... just bear with me. Before we come to the end of the stream. But there were a few things that I saw earlier that I just want to quickly point out as well. Just move back over to my screen. Just move that along a bit. There we go. There's Rachel Reeves. What does she say? If I become Chancellor, I will oversee a decade of national renewal to boost growth, lift living standards, and give working people their future back. This, giving you your future back. Oh God, it's so cringe. That'd be bad even by Tory standards. And this getting your future back. Obviously, as echoes of the "get your country back," the old Brexit slogan as well. Someone else has been saying that recently. I think, was it Anderson or Johnson has come out and started that up again. The old, we want our country back. Although they can never tell you who you need to get the country back from. Oh, that was it. That was something I wanted to just quickly have a look at. So Liz Truss is claiming that Labour, Keir Starmer, backed the Tories on this bill, transgender reform. So let's quickly take a look at that. What's Liz got to say?
Why do you think the Labour Party has done this, in your view? They're all parents, like you are, like many of us are. Why are they willing not to take the action you're taking? They must be hearing the same thing in their email.
Oh, sorry about the buffering there. I'll just quickly come in. I think this specific reform is about the puberty blockers, whether kids would be allowed to take puberty blockers if they wanted to change their identity, if they wanted that. And I think it didn't go through; it was rejected. So this is after it's been through Parliament, and well, it didn't end up going through Parliament, but after it's been presented at Parliament. Just to add a bit of clarification, I think that's what this is about. But apparently, surprise, surprise, the Tories and Labour are in league yet again, agreeing with each other. You know, and how many times have we seen that now? I'll just quickly go.
The Palestinian people have...
Yep, it's this over and over again. This.
Under my leadership, we will engage constructively with the government. Not opposition for opposition's sake, not scoring party political points or making impossible demands, but with the courage to support where that's the right thing to do.
That's the Tory way, isn't it, Keith? Yeah. So this is the latest example of that. We'll just finish off hearing what Truss has got to say. Pause it there. She looks. Wake up, Liz. She looks asleep. Although the lights are on, but no one's home, as we're more than aware.
Inbox from constituents.
Well, I've had discussions with Labour MPs who privately tell me they agree with me, but they've been told not to support the bill because of their party whips. They're concerned about the pressure from left-wing activists, and that is the problem with the Labour Party, is that over their shoulder they're looking at the extremist activists, whether it's on gender.
Liz, you just literally said so yourself about 15 seconds ago that they support you, and it says they told me in private they agree with me, but have been told not to support the bill because of the party whips. Well, it's hard to keep up with Liz Truss sometimes, isn't it? Really, she's kind of contradicting herself there, and I think she's just going to take a quick. She's going to try and convince us that the Labour Party are somewhat still progressive, which obviously they're not.
Ideology, whether it's on support for Hamas, and they're afraid.
Oh, sorry about the buffering there. But, of course, the Tories are anti-trans. Of course, GB News as a channel are anti-trans as well. You've seen Sunak at PMQs repeatedly try and jibe Starmer. It's very rare that I'd actually defend Keir Starmer. But this is just one of rare examples where I will of trying to say that Starmer doesn't know if a woman has a penis or not, and this kind of childish thing. So, latest episode of that. So it looks as though, okay, so she's saying that they agree with her in private and that they are kind of anti-trans, but that the Labour whips telling them to vote against the motion. Well, I don't know if there's much truth in that, to be honest. You know, it's all after the fact. And obviously it's a statement coming from a Tory, which you always have to take with a pinch of salt. It's like, oh yeah, they might have voted this way, but I spoke to them like round the corner, and they totally agree with me. Hedy Lukey, welcome to standard membership on the channel. Great to see you tonight. Hope you enjoy your your perks. With the standard membership, you can get access to exclusive videos, as well as all of the perks for the live stream package as well. Exclusive live streams. You can use the static emojis on here as well. So for anyone who's not a member who's listening, please do consider supporting the channel in that way. Standard membership is just the price of a hot tasty beverage, and it's a great way to support the channel as well. So enjoy those perks, Hedy, and just another warm welcome. Just a few more words from Liz.
To say what they really think, and they're afraid to stand up for the rights of children, and that is very...
The row in this is obviously over whether children should be able to decide if they're going to change gender at such an early age, and whether medically they should be given things that would sort of would affect their puberty, basically. The Tories are dead against it. It looks as though Labour are voting for people to be able to make that decision, although Liz Truss is claiming it's different. Let us know your thoughts about that as well. Just have another skim through. You can, of course, give us a follow on Twitter if you like. We are at MyLeftEye UK on Twitter, and we recently got a Mastodon account as well, for those of you who use social media site Mastodon. That's just at MyLeftEye. You don't have to put UK on the end, but give us a follow. We do follow back all socialists. It is, of course, Socialists Sunday, which is a feature on Twitter, so that's usually one of the days where we manage to connect with like-minded people, left-leaning folk, such as your good selves. There was this clip as well from Keith that I wanted to point out. So he's been gloating about having meetings with Labour Friends of Israel, which I'm sure he thinks is a great institution, of course. But this is, that's sort of like Zionist HQ, I guess. They've obviously got influence over Starmer. It's been widely rumoured or believed that whatever he said to get Lindsay Hoyle to dance to his tune on that amendment on the ceasefire was sort of came by instruction from Israeli lobbyists as well. So what's Keith saying here?
I look forward to visiting Israel with LFI as soon as possible. It's a top priority for me to visit, to listen, and to understand.
Will he be visiting Rafah as well? Really, at least just for balance. Obviously, he's massively biased on this issue. But whilst you're over there, whilst you're in the area, why not go into Rafah or Gaza as well? Just, check it out. And obviously, parts of Israel aren't even Israel. It's occupied territory.
I'm committed to doing all I can to continue rebuilding the important bond with our friends in Israel. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the LFI annual lunch in November. I'm honoured to be invited.
Oh, I'd imagine I could certainly see there being massive protests at that meeting. I'm sure you'll agree. That'll be interesting. The protests have just been getting bigger and bigger, haven't they? Almost 500,000 people marching through London recently.
Thank you again to Steve and everyone in the LFI for the crucial role you play in our party. Enjoy your evening.
It's very important.
God, he's a real charmer, isn't he? He's got bags of personality as Starmer. Blimey. What's this bit at the end? Let's just have Yeah, there's a bit left on the clip.
For LFI to bring Parliament.
So this is like an LFI promo vid by the look of it. Let's just skim back there. Was that Luciana Berger? This lady? Yeah, I believe it is. There's a couple of other familiar faces there as well. She was obviously part of the anti-Semitism scam, including, in trying to label the party as anti-Semitic under Jeremy Corbyn, trying to label him directly as anti-Semitic, which is, of course, the opposite of the truth. And then she said that she was going to be voting for Lib Dem, I think, and then they went off and splintered off into that, what was it called, the group, the group that there was quite a few of them. They've all now, gone into political obscurity. I think Ian Austin was part of the same thing as well. So it doesn't surprise me to see that she's LFI.
Bring parliamentary candidates here to Israel to see for themselves the complexity of the situation.
I'm going to be taking a lot of this back with me to London. The stories that I've been told, the people...
This is pretty, when you consider the context, this is pretty creepy. This is pretty grim. Israel propaganda is awful, as we all know. This just sort of reeks of ignorance to me. The fact they're acting as though they're going away on the holidays and that it's not a war zone out there, and they're saying that they can't wait to get back and tell their friends what they've seen. Well, you see row after row of demolished residential blocks, office buildings that still have people underneath the rubble, tragically and extraordinarily sadly. What else are you going to tell them? How many kids you shot today, or how many journalists you shot today, or how many women you shot today? It's just been International Women's Day recently. Why don't you put that in your holiday snaps? This is really pretty morbid when you think about it. The fact that they're doing this chirpy kind of promo video, it's quite grotesque. I think it's almost as bad as when there's been something happening in the royal family and you see the videos that they do to reassure everyone, and like the stuff that's been going on recently with the stuff over the photograph. I won't get into that too much, but then people were saying it was fake. The royal family came back and said, oh, it was actually Kate who took the picture, trying to make out as though she's into amateur photography and made a mistake when she was editing and this kind of thing. But I don't want to get too carried away with that. This doesn't sit well with me, this video, obviously. I'm no supporter of Labour Friends of Israel by any means. David Lammy is another one of the prominent Labour parliamentary members who's an LFI as well. But just like I was saying, when you consider the context, how chirpy they are, really, it makes my skin crawl, to be honest.
That I've met.
Anyone who goes to Israel with an LFI visit will find themselves meeting a wide...
Oh, Pat McFadden, who's awful. He's featured on the show before as well. And another thing that just sort of struck me was the kind of contradictions, shall we say. Haven't, Israel been playing the victim card for so long? I thought if you're going to believe their propaganda, that they're under constant attacks from Hezbollah and these kind of people. They're showing pictures and shots of people walking around the peaceful street with open markets. Obviously a completely different scene than what you'd get in Gaza, where you have packet of flour between about 1,000 people at the moment, and the place has been levelled to the ground It looks like, you know, scenes reminiscent of the end of World War II already, and it's only been 5 months in. Like, if you look back at old footage of like Dresden and Berlin at the end of World War II, it's indecipherable from the current scenes that we're seeing out of Gaza. So what's Pat McBloody Fadden got to say about this now?
Variety of Israeli voices and opinions.
I want to pay tribute to the hard work of LFI.
Well, that's certainly a long way from older footage that we see of Starmer supporting Palestine, calling for a ceasefire, and now he's here giving an address at LFI. And in, you know, the time between his previous support for Palestine and now, he's obviously come out as an open Zionist and supports Zionism without qualification, that famous quote as well. So he wants to tribute to the hard work, hard-working, pushing Israeli propaganda. As Hedy says in the chat, yeah, how many babies have they shot today? Is that what you're proud of? Are you proud of that hard work? Or the fact that there's a starvation crisis, there's a famine now that's affecting 1 in 5 children at least in Gaza. Is that what he's proud of? That hard work, is it?
You are an invaluable source of energy and ideas for me and my team.
Oh, well, at least now we know who to blame for Labour not having any ideas. Most of the time they just copy the Tories anyway. But if they do actually ever come up with something, it's not actually of their own invention or creation. He's just admitted they're an invaluable source of energy and ideas for me and my team. They don't have any bloody ideas. They just copy the Tories. But is this where you take your cues from, Keith? From Labour Friends of Israel? Is this just, you know, another extension of Israel lobby's influence on Starmer? He's openly admitted it there. From the horse's mouth himself.
I'm delighted to be able to send this message, to send my support to Labour Friends of Israel, and to thank you for the important work that you do. I look forward to...
Okay, yeah. So, Mr. Charming, the charmless man there. Keith Kidstarver, ladies and gentlemen. The fan of fondue himself. Regular viewers of our stream will know that when we're warming up, we wait in Keith's Fondue Lounge. It's a very playful scene that's put together by a friend of mine who runs a page on Twitter called The Agitator. Richard Tice, what's he got to say? Well, yeah, this is only a short clip. We'll just have a quick look at this. They've obviously enticed, no pun intended, although it might be slightly intended. They've enticed Lee Anderson over to the Reform Party. A lot of people predicted that was going to happen anyway. Let's see what
I'm absolutely clear.
This
I think the British people
fool of a man is saying.
Want politicians, leaders, the authorities to focus 110% on actually getting out of recession, getting the economy growing again, getting waiting lists down, getting police on the streets, sorting out the criminal justice bill, controlling our...
They're always very good at, you know, this, throw this out, you know, sort this out, and we'll get this going, whether it's the economy or growth normally. Whether it's the Tories themselves trying to say why they think people should be ridiculously stupid enough to vote them in for another 5 years in office. And other right-wing parties, such as Reform, they don't literally spell out how they're going to do it. We're going to sort this out. We'll get it sorted. It's, you know, get whatever done. And it was the same with Brexit, you know, get such and such done. Nice and simple. 3 words. Anybody can swallow that, can consume that. For members of the public who aren't into politics. Oh, they say they'll get the thing done. Isn't that great? Yeah, let's go and vote. How are they going to do it? They've not said at all. They've not described the road that will be travelled, exactly what the goal is, when they are aware if they'll have achieved that target or not, or anything. The closest you really come to them putting any metric on it would be that Sunak said he was going to try and halve inflation, as though, you know, as though that's the biggest thing to gloat about. The fact that we would still have high inflation. Inflation isn't a good thing. You know, obviously it should come down. Shouldn't have inflation at all. And they're just, oh, it's only half as bad as it could be, but it's still really bad. Vote for us.
Borders, stopping the boats, all of these things is what the British people are obsessing about. Quite right too. I think an election's coming. It could be very, very soon indeed. And that is what the people are going to want to hear about.
I'm not so sure, Tice. I'm not too sure. I certainly wouldn't vote for you. The fact that they've got Lee Anderson over now has brought a little bit of light on the party. I don't think they're gonna really break into too many areas. I would be surprised to see them winning seats. We mentioned that they came, you know, quite far behind the Workers' Party of Britain, for example, in the Rochdale by-election. They seem to have pinched a few votes from the Tories in other by-elections. There was the Kingswood and Wellingborough ones recently as well, where obviously the Tory vote crashed. Reform Party managed to scoop up a few of those votes. But again, I can't really see it really making an impact. Don't think there's going to be any shot gains from the Reform Party at the next election. They've only got one person in Parliament at the moment, obviously, and that's Anderson by default, who's never stood in an election under the Reform Party. What's this? I'm not sure what paper this is from. Diane Abbott refused to go on anti-Semitism course to rejoin Labour. MP was offered the Labour whip back if she underwent anti-Semitism training but refused the offer, or independent, it's been told. Well, maybe that's a bit kind of insulting. I'm sure that Diane Abbott is aware of what is anti-Semitism and how bad it is. Maybe that was... they were trying to make her jump through hoops. Perhaps she also realised that if people saw that she was going on an anti-Semitism course, what would the right-wing press make of that, for example? Look how anti-Semitic Labour is. Look how anti-Semitic Diane Abbott is. She has to go to an anti-Semitism training course. That would just throw more fuel on that. And I think that was just about all the clips that I wanted to show you. We've gone over an hour and a half there, so just wanted to finish off with a few clips there. We'll nip back to the Fondue Lounge just as we start to bring things to a conclusion.
Under my leadership, we will engage constructively with the government. Not opposition for opposition's sake, not scoring party political points or making impossible demands, but with the courage to support where that's the right thing to do.
Okay, here we are in the Fondue Lounge. So I just want to conclude by thanking you all for being here, first of all. Whether you're a returning viewer or this was your first time on the live stream, you are very welcome on My Left Eye. You've been all polite and cordial in the chat. That's been great to see as well. And a lot of chat going on there as well. Thanks a lot to our new members who've joined. Thanks a lot, Mithril, for providing people with gift memberships also. It's been great to pick up some new members tonight as well. And I really do hope that you start to enjoy your perks as soon as possible. We'll have more exclusive content coming your way in the next week or so. And just a quick reminder, if you've not done so already, hit the subscribe, thumbs up buttons on the stream. That'll help it reach more people with the algorithm, help us reach a wider audience. all contributions and support for the channel is always massively appreciated, of course. And you wonderful people for being here today. Hope you've enjoyed your weekend. It's been great to be part of it as well. And happy Socialist Sunday again, just to remind everybody. We'll be back same time, 7 o'clock every Sunday. I think most people who follow the stream are happy with that slot. I've asked a couple of times if maybe it could be a little bit later. Unfortunately, some of my streams do clash with other streams. I know that there's other great streamers on YouTube as well, some of whom I follow, and I do enjoy being on their streams as well. So we do have a couple of clashes, but I'll try my best to make sure that they don't clash. Yeah, so please do keep your eye out. The other exclusive live streams for members only, for members of the channel, I don't have any set schedule for those at the moment. Please do let us know in the comments, either on this stream or on one of our other videos, which should be a good time for you. Some people are night owls, some people prefer a later one. And like I said, I don't want to clash with other people who I follow on streams as well. And I've seen a few familiar names in the chat today as well, who I see on other streams also. So it's been great to see you here on My Left Eye as well. I'm sure that one or two of you follow people like No Justice as well, with Helena, and the Maximilian Robespierre stream, for a couple of examples as well. And they're definitely worth checking out for fans of My Left Eye as well. We've all got to stick together, really, as on the left, you know, in solidarity and in unity, and we can achieve great things together, you know. So let's continue to do that. So we'll be back here, as I said, 7 o'clock next Sunday. It'd be great to see you guys here again. And I'll just conclude by wishing everybody a very good evening. Hope you have a great week, if I don't see you between now and the next Sunday night live stream. Mind how you go, and My Left Eye will be seeing you soon. Take care, everyone.